Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. Welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. My name is Sean. And I'm joined by, Kyle's here. I'm so excited to start this podcast, Kyle, because for the first time in 5 weeks, I'm sitting in my bedroom and I'm back on my microphone and my computer, and life is good. I'm home. As everybody knows, I was stuck in your state for a while.
Stuck?
Due to the broken. Huh? Yeah, well, quite literally.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't by choice.
Yeah, exactly. But I traveled home just last week, and it's just great. Life is good. I'm feeling good. Still struggling to move and walk around a bit, so I'm still using a walker and a chair. Thankfully, my mom traveled home with me, and so she's been here all week. Helping run some errands and do little things around the apartment to kind of prepare for several weeks of limited mobility. So, I'm on the mend. I'm on the road to recovery.
What's speaking of limited mobility? What's the biggest change you think is going to be in the next couple of weeks? Just as far as not being able to do. I mean. So you're not going to be able to drive, right? Do you think that's a pretty big one, or what do you think?
I'll be surprised if I'm driving before December. But I do know, I feel like every couple of days there's a new range of motion or a stronger range of motion, if you will. So maybe within a few weeks, but I think it'll be a couple weeks before I'm driving, so that'll be a big change of being at home. And then, of course, my mom leaves town today, actually, at the publication of this podcast. So I won't really have somebody available 24/7. Of course, I have friends and stuff I'm sure will help me if need be. But no, I'll pretty much be staying home most of the week.
All right. What do you have for physical therapy right now?
Nothing yet. We are waiting to set that up. So when I get home, I'm just doing my own in-home little exercises. Right. But this week we should be set up. We had the initial phone call, so now it's just a matter of insurance approvals and setting up ongoing appointments.
Yeah. Cool.
And those will be at home for a few until I can drive again. So they'll come to my house probably 3 times a week.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you've got a plan, right? I mean, all this stuff is really difficult and obviously sucks. But you're handling it. I have to say, man, the way you handle it and just your attitude through the whole thing has been really incredible, and it's showing everyone really who you are.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
There were a few moments of lack of patience and frustration and cuss words and jokes.
Deserved. Well deserved.
But I can't say I never yelled at a nurse, so I felt good about that.
Nice. Good deal.
You started asking me that question, what are the biggest changes of the next couple of weeks? And immediately I started thinking, I thought you were going to ask, what are some of the biggest changes I'm dealing with right now?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and answer that question
please.
Because that's what I thought you were going to ask.
Yeah.
I noticed today, as I'm coming to the microphone and getting ready to get on the phone with you, I thought to myself, I should go to the bathroom real quick. And, I'm learning that with a really weak leg and a wheelchair and tight hallways in the apartment, it takes a whole lot longer these days to go to the bathroom. So that's taken, and showers are like it's like a chore.
Yeah.
So
It's
but
like a
it's good.
major accomplishment, right?
Yeah, really good. It's like
Yeah.
I
No,
understand, I
that's
guess,
things we
when
take for granted, right? Yeah.
this probably isn't fair to say, but when you might chat with a retired individual, or maybe even ask your mom or dad, "Hey, what'd you do today?" And they're like, "What? I painted a wall." And that was it. You're like, "That's it?" Like, I understand now why
Yeah.
that one project can be so exhausting.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, since I've been home, you and Farah and a bunch of other people that we all know all traveled to DC. So talk to me a little bit about, or tell listeners about, the
Yeah.
International Ataxia Research Conference that was just held a few days ago.
Yeah, I just got back. You can hear my voice is a little hoarse cuz just from, lack of sleep because there was so much awesome stuff going on and just talking loudly to people. But it was so rad. I mean, so rare disease, right? That's what Friedreich's ataxia is. And so there's only 5,000 people in the U.S., sort of statistically, and then about 15,000 people worldwide. Not very many people are affected by this disease. However, Farah has built an incredible scientific community. The very first Farah International Research Conference was 65 scientists.
Mhm.
And this week in Washington, D.C., partnering with GoFar, who is an organization in Italy, and Ataxia UK and Farah Australia, there were I think 430 scientists
Oh, wow.
that were covering all types of ataxia, and
Now,
obviously Friedrich's ataxia. There was a lot in there for that, but it's just really encouraging to see so much new stuff and so many ideas being thrown against the
yeah.
wall and seeing if they're gonna work. Dude,
Well, I
there
think
was
real quick
yeah,
before you
please.
before you go on, I think what's really powerful about that difference between 65 scientists and 430, that 65 scientists, that was only like 22 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah,
Somewhere
I think it
around
was like
98,
1999
90.
or 8 or
Okay.
9. Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. I've heard Ron Bartek talk about that, and to go to have that much reach in 20 years, or just over 20 years, pretty powerful.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the super cool things, there was like 90 young investigators.
Mm.
So, it just tells me that people understand that if they want to get into FA research, they're going to be well supported and they see a path forward to a career in research on FA. And when they come to the conference and they feel connected to the patients and the leaders
Mm.
of the advocacy organizations, it really draws their heart into their work too, and then they're hooked
Sure.
for life, and that's what we love. So
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
it was a really incredible experience.
I think that really cool to hear that too, as a patient, knowing that there are people in their 20s and 30s who are, maybe at the early stages of their career, and they're interested in this disease. They're interested in making an impact for us. So that's exciting, knowing that the next generation, quote
Right.
unquote, is stepping up to the plate on our behalf, if you will.
Yeah, it was really incredible. We
That's
do
awesome.
this conference once every 2 years. And so I mean, there were a bunch of people that I haven't seen for 2 years, but I can't wait
Yeah,
to see them again in 2 more years.
yeah,
So yeah, it was awesome.
and it was cool seeing some of your pictures of people that I might know that live in Germany or Australia. That was cool. I love
Yeah.
it.
Hey, and you know what? I want to plug our video series that we did.
Oh
Me
yes.
and Randy Yipe, who you've met before, and we did a video series where we brought some of our scientists into a little it's actually a hotel room, and we interviewed them, and they explained their work hopefully in a way that we can understand and that the community can understand, and really, got their perspective on why they do what they do. So check out the Farah YouTube and the Farah Facebook if you want to see those videos.
Um, awesome. And I know who he is, but just for the sake, Randy Yipe, he has 2 kids with FA. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Jake
but he
and
has, I
Claire,
think, 4 total
I believe so.
kids.
Yeah.
He's got a few kids, and two of
Yep.
them happen to have FA, so
And
he's a
and
FA dad, if you will.
and Maureen was there too. She was one of the producers on our video series, and she was really great. It was so much fun to get to know
And
them. And
Maureen's his wife, right?
right, that's correct.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool, love it. Yeah, I started to watch one of the videos, so I look forward to being able to go back, and remind for listeners to go find those videos. I know, obviously, we all know Kyle can be funny, and Randy's energy, I look forward to seeing a little bit more.
Yeah, check it
So,
out.
before we get into really what we wanted to discuss today, which in a way I'm using the phrase year in review. A lot of our listeners know that we started taking a little bit of time off sporadically throughout the year from our weekly publications. So we're getting real close to that time. In fact, our very episode 95 will end season 2 for us. So we're going to take this opportunity and do our year in review from Kyle and my perspective. So, Kyle, before we get into that, we kind of came up with this random idea. It's kind of a stupid game, if you will, where we challenged each other to go dig up three current but random and obscure headlines, big or small, local paper or international news. We just want to avoid mainstream headlines. So I have 3, and the idea was we'll just read the headlines and maybe see if you can, I don't know, Kyle, see what your reaction is, see if you might understand the article or the perspective of the article, or maybe you just have a comment on the headline. I'm going to give you my first one. Are you
All
ready?
right, I'm ready.
And you know what? Let's do it.
Right.
This article I found from, everything I found was online. So this one is the Axios,
Okay.
AXIOS, Axios News. The article headline is Lyft pulls scooters out of 6 major cities.
Wow.
How do you feel about those little scooters?
Oh, I see. So Lyft, the car service, the ride share.
The
Yeah.
ride share.
Okay, got it. I don't feel strongly about them. I wish I could ride one. If they look like fun. I realize a lot of people think they're super annoying because you can just leave them everywhere, and I understand that. I see them, like, I was in Sacramento actually, and they're like bright green or something in Sacramento. And they were just like all over the place, and I could see how they get annoying, but they look like a lot of fun actually.
Yeah.
So
they do look cool. I will say though, I'm not for or against the bikes or the scooters, but I will say they are a bit of an eyesore in a lot of different areas. So I can understand where some people come from in that regard. And then also safety. I know that's a concern. People jump on those things and maybe don't pay attention to traffic or whatever. But
yeah,
I can't say that's the brand's fault. That's user error.
right. There needs to be some kind of consent or disclaimer or something maybe before you get on one of those things.
I was surprised to read in that article there are more than 10 companies running rideshare bikes and scooters in the United States.
Wow, that's crazy.
Lyft and the Uber are just 2 of the big ones that we all know.
Yeah. All
So,
right.
anyway,
I got my first article for you.
Okay.
This is from Ars Technica. I don't know. Anyway. This tiny deer-like animal, seen only once in the last century, was just caught on camera. So
I do remember seeing that actually.
it's actually kind of interesting. It's this mouse deer, and it's this tiny animal. It hasn't been seen since 1910. But
Wow.
these researchers set up a bunch of cameras, like they call them
Huh.
camera traps, but they're just cameras, like in the woods. And they caught it like 200, it says 258 times in the last, like, however long, 3 weeks or whatever it's been.
Wow.
So, anyway,
Where?
that's kind of
Where
cool.
did
So,
they
what do you
find it?
think?
I think it's ugly. I did see a picture of it. So, uh, like, part of me thought when I first saw the picture, it was some sort of genetic experiment. I didn't think it was a real rodent or animal. What would you call it? A rodent or an animal?
Yeah, I don't know. It says tiny deer-like animal.
Well, it's
So,
super tiny. It
it,
just looks like a deer, I guess,
yeah,
in the body.
it sounds like a headline you might read in like National Enquirer or something, right?
Did you catch where they found it at?
I
Is that
don't.
like in the U.S. or a different country or a different planet?
I will.
No big deal.
I'm looking right
I was
now.
just
Go. Oh,
curious. I've
Vietnam.
got oh Vietnam. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So
I've got my next
what's
one for
your
you.
next one? Yeah.
This is for you because it's an East Coast thing. Customers blast Dunkin', as in Dunkin' Donuts, for dropping foam cups. Changing the best part of my day
Yeah.
is the subtitle. That's what a lot of
Oh,
customers
right.
of Dunkin' Donuts are complaining about because Dunkin' Donuts, in an effort to be a little more eco-friendly, they're
Right.
getting rid of their styrofoam cup in just a couple weeks that people have come to love, I guess.
So, dude, come on. If the best part of your day is the styrofoam cup at Dunkin' Donuts, like, get
Well,
it, come on.
yeah,
You
I
gotta
will say, as
rethink things.
in response to your thought there, I was actually pretty impressed with the whole, I read the whole article just because of Duncan and being exposed to him pretty recently and craving them now. Um, I think the CEO or somebody in charge of branding and marketing for Dunkin' Donuts actually talked about how important the change is for business, for their being a sustainable company, but how important it is for them to help navigate their customers through the change. Like reading his quotes, I actually believe they are sincerely concerned about their customers um, being upset about this change. Like they're genuinely gonna try to walk people through this as gently as possible. So I thought that was cool. And he
I really wish I cared about this, dude.
well, the guy talked about how it's a sense of comfort because
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
your daily coffee and
Right.
you feel that cup and I'm
Yeah.
sure we can all experience that with Starbucks. It's an image thing, if you will, to an extent.
Yeah.
So anyway,
All right,
um,
my second one. Colin Kaepernick's wild workout day. How he looked, what he said, and who showed up. What do you think about Colin Kaepernick?
I'm I'm gonna use your words. I really wish I cared about this.
Dude, yeah,
I don't care. I
he's
would much rather go back and read or watch a Workout Wednesday video from
oh
Zach
man.
Anner
Yeah,
than
that's a good
than read
point.
an article on Colin Kaepernick.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's well, anyway. So we'll skip that one. Do you have your next one queued up?
Yeah, okay, one more from me. McDonald's lets job seekers apply with Amazon's Alexa or Google Assistant.
Ooh, that's kind of cool. So you can fill
Yeah,
out your job application like by voice. I don't.
apparently. And
Wow.
at first I thought, oh, who cares? Like we're being lazy. But man, I caught myself so fast because I'm like, there are a lot of people that can work that maybe can't write,
Right. Yeah.
or that would be a hardship to fill out a long application. So I was actually, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. How do you like edit things and look at them and
Mm,
make sure they're right and stuff? I wonder. I mean, there's got to be some kind of process.
yeah, it's
But
probably.
yeah.
But hey, we're moving forward with technology
Yep.
for
I
sure.
like it. Good stuff. All right, my last one. So I saw this on the Apple News app, and it was a story about this lady. So, a junior high track team, they needed new shoes. So one of the moms texted Ashton Kutcher because he made his phone number public through some app that he's developing. She texted Ashton Kutcher, and then like 6 pairs of running shoes showed up on her porch like
Wow,
3 days later or something.
that is cool. That's
Yeah,
impressive. I saw the headline, but I didn't read the story. I had no idea if she texted him directly. I just figured it was some, you know, Twitter thing like, "Hey, help us out" or something that he responded to. That's really cool that
yeah,
somebody had the courage to like, I'm gonna text him, and
yeah,
he actually followed through.
exactly. Yeah, no, I guess he's developing some app where people can like if it gets 1,000 texts or whatever, he can like call through them. However, and the company that's running it helps him respond to the ones that he wants to respond to and stuff. But anyway, that's
Wow.
just kind of a cool story that I hope that I get to buy shoes for a random track team someday.
That is cool. I like that.
Yeah, nice.
All right, Kyle, let's move on a little bit from our pointless headlines. Um, when we talk about 2019, we started this year with a bunch of goals in mind. But before we get into the goals, I thought it might be kind of fun to look at our calendar year and maybe identify some high points and low points. So,
Yeah.
Kyle, for you, over the course of 2019, what is one of your favorite things relating to the podcast that you've been able to do or been a part of or met or whatever it may be? What's a high point?
The thing that jumped right into my mind was just being on stage at Global Genes with all the patient advocacy in that room, just
Mm.
all the power of people in that room, and being on stage and cracking up and crying. Within like 3 minutes of those two emotions, and
Yep.
just
Yep.
all the feels with amazing friends on stage at Global Genes
For
was my high
sure.
point.
I love it. And you know what? Mine's actually pretty similar. Um, in June, we went to Amicus, right? Amicus Pharmaceuticals, and we did a live show or forum with them. And I can't remember. I think it's episode 80 or 81, somewhere around there. Live at Amicus. That was a high point for me. Being able to
Yeah,
travel back to New Jersey, the Make a Wish Wishing Castle, meeting so many fun, cool people, and then being in that huge tent with
yeah, that was
700
crazy.
or so. It was so intimidating.
Yeah,
I think that one helped us maybe get ready for Global Genes.
yeah. The thing I remember about that event is just like, all right, jumping. It felt like we are jumping off a cliff. I was so
Mm.
nervous. And I was like, are we just going to like crash and burn? And we just, you just got to
You
go
know,
for it. So,
Yeah, I think you remind me that that event it all came together in like 3 or 4 weeks. Like it
right.
was really fast.
Yeah.
Whereas Global Genes were, we had a bit of time to plan and kind of work out the kinks. But yeah, I remember that feeling too with Amicus being right around the corner. Are we going to be okay here? And you talk about laughing and crying at Global Dreams. We had that one with Amicus we did with three teenage girls, and that was so much fun.
Yeah, they were
Those
really
girls were
good.
incredibly well spoken and funny. So yeah, just good times in both places. Okay, Kyle, how about a low point? What is something that maybe you weren't too happy about this year?
Dude, my low point for the podcast, I'm sure it kind of lines up with some lows for you, but my low point for the podcast was when you broke your hip and I
Mm-hmm.
had to do the CHOP Symposium patient panel alone, man. I
Mm-hmm.
was I mean, I mentioned this several times when I was on stage. I'm like, I am really missing Sean right now. I mean, obviously it wasn't your fault, but I really felt like I was missing my wingman,
Yeah,
and well, I'm yours too. I mean, we're kind
for
of,
sure.
So anyway, yeah, that was really tough for me.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have, and I would have been nervous and not felt like my best if you weren't, if I was doing it and you weren't. Like I,
Right,
I would have felt like there's definitely something
some
missing.
something
So
missing, yeah.
I can relate with you on that. That was definitely a low point for me as well.
Yeah, I
You
can
know,
imagine.
it's funny. I think a lot of our listeners know I had traveled to Pennsylvania for that symposium, right? And then Saturday is when I broke my hip and I went to the ER. And I remember that night when you came in, we were talking in the ER. We had a ride a taxi event on Sunday, the very next day.
Yeah.
And then Monday was going to be, or was the symposium. And do you remember me telling you, hey, I'm probably not going to make the ride tomorrow, but I'm not cutting out the symposium yet.
Yeah.
Like there was for a moment I was convinced I'd be able to make it on stage
Right.
still.
Little did we know. Yeah, I think in the beginning none of us realized the implications of an injury like that.
Mm,
Like
sure.
no one knew. Well, I certainly didn't realize that you would be in rehab for 3 weeks, and
Right.
so anyway.
No joke. Yeah.
So
Well,
what is your low point of the year, or
I,
what one of them anyway?
well, I would certainly agree with you on the injury, but
Yep.
I think for me, look, not Somebody White Mountain was a major low point for me.
Yeah.
That was my third attempt, and I was convinced going into it that we were gonna summit very easily.
Right.
Um, of course, I don't regret it. We learned a lot. I'm so thankful, and it was such an amazing trip.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
I do. I am kind of bummed to be able to try again.
Yep. Yep. But we'll make it this time.
Exactly. Exactly.
We
It's
better. Yeah.
it's it's another goal for 2020. In fact, that goal came up in 2019, so at least we went for it, and we got further than we ever had before. So it's not
Right.
like we wrote it down and forgot about it. In fact, speaking of, there were some other goals that we talked about in episode 59 at the beginning of this calendar year. So for the podcast, you and I wanted to do 4 patient forums.
Yeah.
I can count 3. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, are you counting chop?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. 3. That's what I got
Okay.
too. So
All right.
we're gonna have to step it up in 2020. I
Yeah.
think.
Jack. Well, I think we've got a couple brewing on the calendar already, so
Yep.
that's exciting. I will say, when I re-listened to episode 59, I was reminded about an idea you and I had to create some merchandise item that we never
How'd
revealed.
that go?
We haven't done a thing. However,
Yeah.
it's still on my list, so we're gonna.
All right.
I'm still not gonna say much about it, but I do think you and I need to move forward with that a little more aggressively in
Yeah.
2020.
I agree.
And then I don't know if you remember, but we listed 5 dream guests, and they were all big ass, like Michael
Yeah.
J. Fox and you, Adam Carolla,
Right.
and
Right. Yeah.
well,
Did we get any on our list?
no, No, we didn't get any of the five.
Oh
However, I
man.
will say, in listening to that episode again to prepare for this one, I was reminded of Gabe Adams. And so I sent him a message today.
Oh,
So at the
nice.
very least, we're still no commitment, but I don't think either one of us reached out to any of our other dream guests. So I was thinking it's never gonna happen if
I
somebody's not
know.
knocking on their door. So I can at least say we've reached out to one. We'll see what
There we go.
happens.
We'll get it done.
Exactly.
Nice.
All right. How
So,
about on a personal level?
yep. So it looks like your goals for the year were to ride. We both had a mileage goal. Yours
Uh-huh.
was 1,200 miles on your trike.
Uh-huh.
How's that going for you?
I've got about 1,100 to go. What you know, yep, I didn't. Yeah, that goal. No, not even like that was foolish for me to even think about it.
So I rode 1,500 miles last year, and that was my goal for this year.
Nice.
I definitely am nowhere near it. I have 800. Dude,
Ooh.
I rode 400 miles in the month of July, and I've hardly ridden since. So I just a lot of travel. I mean, I've got a million excuses.
Yeah.
You know, but so anyway, we didn't quite hit that this year. Your
Uh,
other one, Sean, was you wanted to read 20 books this year. How's that going?
you know, um, I've been excited about all the different books I've been reading, but I realized today I've only got 10 down. I'm only halfway there with about 6 weeks in the month or in the year left. So thankfully, in doing this, I realized I still have several to go, but also I'm due to my injury, I'm on leave from work first,
There you go.
so I've got time. So I'm gonna have to step it up for sure.
It decreases your ability to gain any miles on your trike, but it increases your ability to
This
listen to books.
that's true.
Yeah.
And in a month I can say I didn't hit my 1,200 trike miles because I broke my hip.
Yep.
Right, right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Yeah, that's a good reason.
sure.
Yep.
um,
So
go ahead.
my book came out this year in February,
I,
and my goal was to sell 10,000 of them. And
mm-hmm.
at the time, I had no idea if that was even a good goal or whatever.
Sure.
Like, I had no clue. And I am not gonna reach that goal for sure.
Okay.
I think I probably have sold around 4,000.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, I'm not disappointed with that, but I guess I just didn't know what selling 10,000 books was. So
What to expect or how that looks. Yeah,
yeah,
I totally get it. And for listeners who may be new to the podcast, Kyle over there published his first book this year called titled Shifting into High Gear. You can find it on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. You can even get it through our website, twodisableddudes.com. Pick it up in our shop and maybe help Kyle get closer to that 10,000 mark.
yep.
Where you at with Ride a Taxi? You talked about wanting to raise money, a certain dollar amount for Ride a Taxi.
Right. Yeah, and you know what? I think the dollar amount is just a marker of
Sure.
progress at Ride a Taxi. Obviously, it's not the only thing we look at. I mean, we look at so much community involvement and just people coming out to support the cause, but really. The money is a marker. I said I wanted to raise 1.4 million. That's more than we've ever raised. And the other day, unofficially, I asked Felicia, who has a little better handle on all the financials than I do, and she was like, it looks like we're gonna be at around 1.4 million by the end of the year. So
Wow.
that's really amazing, and I
Then
feel really good about that.
we have at least one goal to celebrate then.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
And you know what I want to say about that too is that it wasn't me.
Sure.
It was all the people that come out to the ride, all the families that come out and raise $100 a year, $100 there, and it all adds up.
Mm.
You know, there's lots of teams that raise like $10,000, $20,000, and obviously that adds up too. But
Yep.
even the people that raise, a couple hundred or a couple thousand, everyone with their shoulder to the wheel got to that 1.4. So we really appreciate everyone.
For sure. It's a team effort, definitely.
Yeah, man.
One more I want to talk about, then we'll get into our a follow up to an episode conversation.
Yeah.
When I listen to our goals on the podcast again, I heard myself say, "Oh, I'm gonna post on my blog once a week," and I remember your response like, "Whoa, that's crazy! It's hard," and I did not do it in the beginning. It's I wasn't on track, but I will say, even though it's not my blog, I did start writing a column with FA News Today, and that's an online publication or Friedrich Ataxia News. And that column is now weekly, and it's been weekly for 6 to 8 months. So I'm feeling pretty good about that, actually. Even though it is slightly different than what I had in mind in January, I've gotten in the habit and the routine of writing every single week, and I'm certainly proud of that. So
yeah, and the cool thing that I see about that is that you really have worked really hard to get it done, and we're super committed. Like, there was none of this like, I just won't do it this week.
Yeah.
We'll let it go. So that was cool.
Sure. So just for funsies, I would love people to go read that column. So FA News, or actually the web address is Friedrich's ataxianews.com. The title of my column is No Good Excuse. And while I'm giving out websites, I wanted to circle back again for you, Kyle, for friends of ours that maybe don't know Ride Ataxia. Those are bike rides you lead in 6 different cities, or 5 throughout the country.
Yeah.
So rideataxia.org.
Yep.
People can visit rideataxia.org for more information on that.
Yep. Come on out and ride with us.
Exactly. All right, Kyle, the big one that we'll kind of end it in the next, few minutes, whatever, on this one. But a long time ago, like somewhere around early June, late May, and I'm sorry to our listeners, I don't remember the episode number, but you had talked about flying somewhere and exiting your plane at the layover. Recap that real quick.
So I was flying back from Columbus, Ohio, and the flights to Philly were so expensive. It was like $500 to get from Columbus, Ohio to Philadelphia. And then I found this flight that went from Columbus to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it had a layover in Philly. And I was like, why don't I just get off in Philly? And it was like $140 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a huge savings, and I was like, well, it's not a big deal. So I told you the story of how I called the lady, and she told me that it wasn't really ethical. And I was like, all right, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then to do that, to get off in the middle of the flight where the layover is. And then a few weeks later, you sent me the article. Tell us about this article.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, I forget now, United, I think United, some huge airline, was the center of this article, because what you're talking about, getting off at a layover on purpose, is called a hidden cities ticket, or a hidden cities whatever. Me neither. But yeah, this article came out because some major airlines have a policy in place or policies in place that say you can't do that. It's against the rules. And of course, although their rules aren't like law, it does negate the agreement or the contract that you might have with them
Oh,
when you
yeah.
purchase a ticket. So I just thought it was funny when I saw the article because, for you and I, it's kind of silly and funny and annoying that the airline would give you crap about it. But apparently, it's kind of a big deal.
I know. I was reading that article and I was really surprised to see like there are websites that you can go to
Mm.
and find hidden city flights to
Yep.
get better deals on flights. So
Yep.
that's crazy, and it's looked down upon, and I think they're trying to be a little more strict about it. So yeah,
Sure.
that's crazy.
I would say they lose revenue because that seat goes empty at one point. Not that I feel bad for them, um, but I guess I understand from the business perspective why they don't like that. But I will say, just for the sake of our listeners, if you decide to look into this, just know that you're doing so at your own risk. We're not promoting it,
No
but we're
way.
also not condoning it. But we do want to make sure you understand that most airlines don't allow this. And I did read in that article when they, quote unquote, catch somebody doing it, they can actually circle back and, fine you, if you will, for the difference in the airfare that
Wow.
they
Oh my
lost because
gosh.
of that.
What the heck? Well,
I
now we
did.
now we know.
Yeah, you know what though? But I am reminded in that article, there were two lawsuits, and the airline did lose in that regard. So
Oh, okay.
maybe it is a risk worth taking.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, that obviously that one's an ongoing thing. So maybe we'll talk more about it in 2020. I
Sounds
think
good.
I think that's pretty good for episode 94. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah. That was a good conversation. I think we covered a lot of ground, and we've got a new game type thing that we threw in there that may or may not come back.
Yeah, watch out for those little mice here if you're ever in Vietnam. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for listening today. We'll talk at you soon.
All right, bye.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Find us online at twodisableddudes.com and please subscribe on the iTunes. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.